Alright guys, this is going to be the last video in the security series, and the topic of this one is report writing. I was a stickler for report writing because I had several residential properties, and if anything ever happened, the reports that you write about the incident might be subpoenaed. Um, you might be required to present them to the courts. Um, so I would stress accuracy in reporting, and had an hourly log and um, a daily report that I can give over to the property manager at the residential properties. So don't neglect this skill. It's very important, and I'm hoping that this video will help you um, to perfect that. All right, here you go.
Why do we need documentation? Well, there are numerous reasons. The two most important are accountability and liability. The dictionary describes accountability as being answerable and capable of being explained. Liable means legally obligated. Each one is important to you, your company, and the customer. Let's take accountability first. The customer needs to know when something is broken. If the security officer patrolled, who came onto their property, if a crime was committed, and so forth. Liability concerns: accidents, theft, fires, employees or clients injured or victims of criminal acts while on the property, and more. Whenever a report is required, it is because accountability is needed or liability exposure is possible. So you see, report writing is an essential part of your duties, but is not something that you should be afraid of. As long as you tell the truth and put all the facts down, you should never have a problem. Once you understand the basics of report writing, it becomes second nature to you. Once you have a written report and have it turned in, the responsibility for the incident is passed on to the person receiving the report. For example, while on patrol, you find a light out in a stairwell. You make a report for a light out and turn it into the customer. It is now the customer's responsibility to fix it. Suppose someone slips there 2 days later because the customer failed to fix the light. They sue the customer, your company, and the security officers, claiming that if the light had been on, they would not have slipped. Who has the most liability? Certainly not you and your company. You both have the least liability. Your company instructed you what to do. You did it and can prove it with a report. This is just one reason reports are important. Daily log reports show that you carried out your duties. Incident reports document incidents and security hazards. And there are many more security reports, but you get the picture. All reports have one thing in common. They are not meant to be long, drawn-out stories. They need to state the facts and get to the point. They tell a story, and that story must be truthful. Never exaggerate or try to make it look better for one side or the other. Don't ramble on and on. Think of the acronym KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Just stick to the facts. The next thing you need to do is make the report understandable. To assist you here are a few shortcuts. In the security industry, most companies use military time. Understanding military time is not difficult. The difference in military time is that you don't use AM or PM. In military time, each hour of the day has its own description. For example, 1 AM is 0100 hours, and 2 AM is 0200 hours. This continues until 1 PM, which becomes 1300 hours, and 2 p.m. becomes 1400 hours. Instead of saying it is 2:15 p.m., it would be 14:15 hours, and instead of 1:20 a.m., it would be 120 hours. With a little practice, military time will become second nature. Now let's focus on how to compile a report. First of all, no one wants to read pages of information about something that could have been condensed into a couple of paragraphs. The objective of report writing, and my goal today, is to show you how to write a report that will contain all the facts, be understandable, be legible, and as brief as possible. Use the 3 C's approach. Always make your reports clear, concise, and complete. By clear, I not only mean it should be readable, but understandable as well. Unless your script handwriting is perfect, all your reports should be printed out. The next C, concise, means get to the point and don't ramble on. Say what needs to be said and leave out all the unnecessary comments, and never give your opinion in a report. Just write what happened and let the facts stand for themselves. To be sure that your reports contain all the facts, think of the 5 W's. Who, what, where, when, and sometimes why. These are the things that the customer needs to know. Regarding the who, reports should contain one or more of the following: the names of the person making the report, the complainant, or the victim, witnesses, the defendant, the police officer, the fireman, or other authority. There are more, but again, you get the idea. Next is the what, and by what I mean what actually happened. What are the facts? What was taken? What weapons were used? There are more whats, but again, I'm sure you get the idea. What is a sort of a short story. The where is just as important. You need to describe as accurately as possible the exact location. Let me give you an example. You discover a burglary on post 503 in an office which has several buildings in the complex. If your report only stated that a burglary occurred at post 503, the report would have insufficient information. A more accurate statement would be a burglary occurred on post 503, the robust factory complex, in the office of Building G. Anyone who reads this would know exactly where it happened. When did it happen? Not just the date, but the time as well. More often than not, you will know the exact time. For example, when you discover a safety hazard. You know what time you discovered it, but sometimes you will not be sure of the exact date or time. In those situations, use between logic. In other words, when was the last time the office was seen intact, and when was it first discovered? For example, the burglary occurred between 1600 hours October 14th, 2000, and 0830 hours October 16th, 2000, when it was discovered. Sometimes you might have to include the why in a report. For example, a woman is injured while on an escalator at the shopping center you're working. Just saying that the woman was injured on the escalator leaves some questions unanswered. Was she injured due to a faulty escalator, or was she responsible for her own injury? Here's a few examples that completely changed the liability exposure. While the victim was on the escalator, it suddenly stopped and caused her to fall. While descending on the escalator, the victim states that she lost her footing and fell. The defendant was being pursued by the security officer after shoplifting a dress from the Wynn ladies' dress store on the 3rd floor, and she was running down the descending escalator when she tripped and fell. In example A, the liability exposure appears to be on the shoulders of the customer. In example B, there is a lot less liability exposure for the customer. And in example C, there is very little exposure. The point of this is that you sometimes have to elaborate with a why in your report so that it is clear. Until these 2 report aids, the W's and the 3 C's, become second nature to you, you should write them down and carry them with you. The best place to keep them is in your notebook. And incidentally, a security officer without a notebook is like a soldier without a gun. Always carry a notebook. The best kind of notebooks are these small spiral notebooks that you can buy at most stores for a few cents. These spiral notebooks have several advantages over fancy pocket-size loose-leaf books, which I will explain in a few minutes. First, let me show you how to set up a notebook. In your security career, you will go through many notebooks. Each time you start a new notebook, print on the cover your name, your company's name, and company telephone number. Under that, put the date you start using the book. And when you have filled the book out, put the ending date under that. When you finish a book, file it somewhere safe at home. Then if you ever need information about an incident that happened on a specific date, just look for the book that contains that date. This is a lot better than spinning your wheels searching for a bunch of books. Here's another suggestion. With a pen, write table of contents on the top of the first 2 pages. Then, starting with the 3rd page, number all of the rest of the pages in the upper right-hand corner with 1 until you have numbered all of the pages. There are 2 reasons for this. When you get done taking notes on an incident, go to the table of contents and give a description and the page number it starts on. In the future, you will be able to look at the table of contents to find something, rather than flipping through the pages. The other purpose for using a spiral notebook and numbering all the pages is to support your credibility. If you have ever have to refer to your notebook at a deposition or in court, a lawyer could attack your credibility by stating, "How do I know that you didn't write that report just before you came to court just to make your customer look good?" Your answer would be, "Sir, I always number the pages in my notebooks when I start them." If you look at page 23, the page that this incident is listed on, you will see that all the pages on both sides have other incidents as well as dates and are numbered in consecutive order. And as you can see, this is a spiral notebook. I don't know anyone who could insert a page into this kind of book. As a security officer, you may be required to write down many different kinds of reports. The kind of report you make depends on the company you work for and the post you are assigned to. Depending on the report, they can be on a single page or require multiple copies. This is either accomplished with carbon paper or NCR paper, non-carbon required style paper. Whenever you have to make multiple copies, be sure you are working on a smooth, flat surface. A clipboard is ideal and holds the papers in place. Always use a ballpoint pen, preferably with black ink. Blue ink does not copy well. When you fill in your reports, as we mentioned earlier, always print reports. If you are making multiple copies, you will need to press harder than normal as you write to be sure that the information is imprinted onto the other copies. One caution, when using NCR paper, always put a hard surface between your working copy and the blank sheets. I'm now going to go over a few of the most common report forms used by guard companies. This will be an overview, not an explanation of every box. The first report there is a daily log report. A daily log report is a running documentation of how your time was spent and what you found as you patrolled. Most daily log reports have the same basic information in the heading. Just how much information is needed depends on your company and the customer requirements. It is not necessary to carry a daily log report with you when you do a tour or patrol. Leave it at your post station and use your notebook to document anything that needs reporting. When you return, fill it in. Besides, you can make a much neater report if the log sheet is written on a desk or a clipboard. The top of the report usually contains boxes asking for general information. Your name, your ID number, the post name and post number, radio number, and so forth. You write in the date and time the shift starts. The ending time and date should never be written in until the shift is actually over, because you might have to put in overtime or have to leave early. Incidentally, daily log reports sometimes are used to prove or disprove customer invoices and time card disputes. In the first column, the heading states tour number. The first patrol would be number 1. The next column asks for the time you start your tour or patrol. Let's assume that your patrol normally takes 1 hour. Don't fill in the end time yet, because you really don't know what time that will be. Depending on what happens, the patrol might take longer or even less time. The next column, titled Remarks, is where you indicate where you went and what you observed. Let's say you patrol the 5th through 10th floors, and you're supposed to inspect all the fire extinguishers, the elevators, check 25 office doors to see that they are locked, check all emergency exit doors, and emergency and exit lights, fire stands, etc. To put all that information on one line is not only time-consuming, it's foolish. If everything is operational and secure, you need only write in, patrolled the 5th through the 10th floors, all secure. On the other hand, suppose you found an emergency light out. Your remarks should read, emergency exit light out west hallway 7th floor, patrolled the 5th through 10th floors, all secure. You follow that routine the entire shift. If you run out of room and have to use another sheet, indicate that on the bottom where it says page blank of blank pages. When you finish your tour of duty, you sign the report. If there is a relieving officer, have them read and sign as well, so that they could see what happened during your shift. If you use more than one page, indicate so on the bottom of the report where it says page blank of blank pages. If you use 2 pages, then page 2 would be page 2 of 2 pages, and so forth. When your supervisor comes on the post, the first thing they usually look for is your daily log report, so always have it current. The next report is the incident report. It is the most important report you're required to make. Unlike the daily log report, incident reports are more narrative and require more accountability. Incident reports are used to keep management and customers informed regarding potential liability. Incident reports can involve anything from a broken window to murder. The report is your account of what happened at your post while you were on duty. Often incident reports are used in litigation such as civil trials, depositions, and criminal trials. They are used by judges, lawyers, and insurance companies. So you can see how important they are. Many times they can make or break a case. Even a basic incident report could later turn out to be a vital part of a lawsuit. This is another reason reports should contain who, what, where, when, and must be clear, concise, and complete. Incident reports may vary from company to company, but in general they all require the same basic information. Most incident reports will have a series of checkboxes that will eliminate writing. Suppose you're approached by a woman who's just had her pocketbook stolen in the parking lot of your post. The officer knows that he needs to get the police there as soon as possible and radios in for assistance. This starts the process. The officer then writes in his notebook the description she gives him. When he has enough information for a lookout, he radios his dispatcher, who in turn notifies the police. While they wait for the police, the officer continues to record additional information in his notebook. This information will be passed on to the police and be used to make his incident report. When things return to normal and the officer has some quiet time, he will make his incident report from the information he wrote in his notebook. On the top of the report, the standard questions such as post name, dates, and times are filled in. Then you have a box for who reported the incident and where the incident occurred. In this case, the who is the complainant. If there was a victim or victims, you would name them here. I should mention that many times the complainant and the victim are one and the same person. If that occurs, you would just write in complainant in the victim box because you've already identified him. If there are witnesses involved, list them. Sometimes a witness will not be needed for months, and if all you have is their name, they may not be located. So make every effort to get the witness's address and telephone number. If you have identified the suspect, you would put their name in here. If you only have a description, then put that in there. If you don't know who or have a description, then write in unknown. Now, the most essential part of the incident report, the narrative. We already discussed the boxes on the top of the form, so it's not necessary to repeat that information again and again. A typical narrative would look like this. At the above time and date, the victim reports that she was exiting the parking lot door at the above location when she was approached from behind by the suspect. The suspect then grabbed her brown leather purse containing about $40 in cash and assorted credit cards. The subject ran north out of the parking lot. The above police officer arrived on the scene at 22:10 hours. Police report number 20197-62. No reported injuries or arrests at the time of this report. Now, as you can see, the officer's statement was brief and covered all details. He didn't elaborate and didn't leave anything out. So you see, you don't have to be an English major to write a comprehensive report. You just need to use common sense. A contract guard company, like any other business, has to have equipment to operate. In the guard business, there are uniforms, radios, patrol cars, and so forth. But there is one additional responsibility in the security business. You are also responsible for the equipment of the customer when on duty. Just because something gets damaged or lost does not mean that heads will roll. In business, management needs to know whenever something is no longer available, regardless of the reason, because most of the time it will have to be replaced so that they continue to operate. Another reason is that the insurance company needs to be notified. This is a damage and loss equipment report. It is a rather simple report, but very necessary. When you discover any of your company equipment damaged, vandalized, lost, or stolen, you should fill out this report. The report will then be forwarded to management, where someone will review it. At the top of the report, clearly write in the name of the item and any identifying numbers, such as Radio 405, Patrol Car 28, or, for instance, a Hewlett-Packard printer, serial number 2678875. If there is no number to identify the item, such as a uniform hat or a uniform shirt, a nightstick, etc., then the rest of the boxes are self-explanatory. We all know that accidents can happen. Let me give you a few examples. Let's assume that your radio got broken when accidentally dropped while on patrol. If you don't tell management, then the post will be without communication. The longer you wait to report it, the longer the customer can't be serviced properly. Plus, the longer you wait, the more it will look like it wasn't an accident. So report it. I doubt that your company would make you pay for the damage. In the narrative, describe the damage, along with an explanation using the 5 W's. Patrol cars and supervisors' cars are essential to your company. They run several hours a day, and like all cars, will need maintenance. The vehicle inspection report assists management in maintaining its vehicles. When you're assigned to a patrol car, it is imperative that you check the vehicle out before you drive off. Your personal safety is at stake. What if the brakes are not working? What if a tire is almost flat? Or if the headlights are not working? So for your safety and the company's, inspect the car before you start your patrol. I have here a vehicle inspection report. In the left corner is the shop number. That is the maintenance control number for the car and is needed to identify it. Every day, different cars are assigned to posts, and the security officers use the post's call sign to identify themselves to the dispatcher. So it would be confusing if you try to use those numbers. Next, you fill in the date, shift, and the post number you're assigned to. This section states that you should inspect the vehicle before it is moved. That is for your benefit. If you discover something wrong after you move the vehicle, it could come back on you. Not so if you've never moved it. You then fill in the starting mileage and starting fuel level. When you're done with your shift, you should enter the ending mileage. You should then do a complete inspection of the vehicle using the check boxes to guide you through. If you have equipment such as reports, clipboards, etc., check them off as OK or missing. Look for body damage. Note any damage you find, no matter how minor. If you see the same dent that you have reported before, report it again. In the description box, enter any information that cannot be explained in an item box. For example, should you find a headlight out, in the headlight box write missing. Then in the description area, indicate which headlight is out. In the service section, you would put in the gallons of fuel and quarts of oil you bought, where you bought it, and the cost. Don't forget to attach your receipt. If the vehicle broke down or needed repairs while you were assigned to it, put that information here. At the bottom of the form, sign it. One final note. Your reports are you. In other words, someone reading your reports will use them to judge your competence. So try to make them as neat, accurate, and concise as possible. Remember, always include the who, what, where, and when as you are making reports, and be sure they are clear, concise, and complete.